September 22, 2014 marked the last day to submit applications to grow and sell medical marijuana in Illinois. There were 214 applications for dispensaries and 159 applications for cultivation centers. Only 22 marijuana farms and 60 dispensaries will be allowed to open statewide. To get a sense of how these cultivation centers and dispensaries operate, the Chicago Sun-Times traveled to Colorado, which has become the standard bearer for the medical and recreational cannabis industry. In this series, we will investigate different aspects of the cannabis industry as Illinois prepares to welcome a new crop. The Sun-Times visited the facilities of Be Mindful, which along with Illinois-based partners under the name Illinois Plant Co., seeks to open a cultivation center and several dispensaries. Megan Sanders is the CEO of Be Mindful.
Colorado has been a fascinating experiment, and I have to say overall I'm very proud of what this industry has done, basically building a real business.
This is Skylar. He's the grow manager.
When I came on board, we maybe had 10 employees. Now we have over 65 employees. We're really busy, and we're expanding product line, expanding the breeding that Philip does.
Every point from this door back is all dedicated to production. There's 44,000 square feet, which is basically an acre indoors, dedicated to indoor plant production.
Creating great medicine strains that help for specific conditions, and we're really dialing into what each and every one of these strains do.
We grow a very large population of our plants from seed. The seeds germinate, they start to grow, and over the couple of weeks or so, these are actually about month-old seedlings. What we're looking for in seeds is we're looking for plants to propagate and to grow in large numbers. Our mother plant collection, our stock plants, what that represents is years and years of propagating plants from seeds, looking for what we call our IDEO type, which is that perfect type plant. As we'll grow thousands of individual varieties, looking for that stellar individual. Once we find those plants, we can literally propagate them indefinitely by just taking a cutting off them. And we can then take these plants and propagate them forever. We have plants in here that have been propagated from cutting since the mid-70s. So this is propagation. You'll notice much higher humidity, lower temperatures, much lower light.
The agricultural side of this business, the actual growing of the plant, was much more common ground in Illinois. You know, I mean, it's a farming community. So when you're talking about growing something, you didn't get this kind of scratch on the head, like, well, what do you mean? So I think that has been one of the most fun things about Illinois, is being able to talk about processes in our garden. What's important about that is Department of Agriculture is actually overseeing the grows. That's really helpful. They get it. They understand the challenges that we might face growing a plant indoors and how hard that might be, because it's just not Mother Nature necessarily.
Being able to incorporate these large-scale agricultural practices with a love for this specific plant has really been the driving force behind what we do. As the plants root, that's when we start the state-mandated tracking system. Each plant on the medical side gets a number that's tied directly back to a patient. That's just a way for the state to kind of keep control of how much the entire system produces. Those are the yellow tags that you're seeing out there. And the blue ones that you're seeing everywhere are for recreational. Each label is a different variety. The strain name you'll see on the smaller tags that are within the trays. BTH is Bubba Tom Hayes. I tend to name plants more of what their genetics are and where they've come from. Bubba Tom Hayes is a Bubba Kush crossed with Tom Hills Hayes. So you get the acronym there, and he just sounds like some old hard-ass Texas sheriff as well. It's a flood of emotion every day to be able to do this, to know that something that I fought for so many years, risked my livelihood, myself, my family, that now that it's in the light and that it's legal to a point in this country that, it just blows me away. It's not something that I ever thought would happen. Like I said, it's a flood of emotion every day, good and bad.
I also think it's important to understand that people that work for us, they're hard workers. They're family people. They're responsible individuals. It's not like, that's not who we hire. I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids. I volunteer in my community. I'm not somebody to be fearful of, and it just gave certain peace of mind, I think, for people to understand exactly what we do and who we are.
My oldest son is 18. He knows exactly what I do. I have a 6-year-old who knows exactly what I do. He knows that I grow medicine for people, that I'm a farmer, that it's my passion, that I love it. You know, my family's been very supportive. It means a lot to me. You know, and it's great to be accepted by my family. You know, to have their support, you know, the support of my wife and my children is huge to me. Once the plants are ready, they will then go into flower rooms. We bring them in and we put them on the irrigation, and we really start to steer the plants for upward growth at this phase. We bring them in and we put them under the nets. The net kind of acts as a great equalizer, giving us a very even canopy, but it also gives the plants support. From this phase, when we put them into flower, up until they've actually set their flowers and stopped pushing vertically, most of them will more than double, some up to quadruple in size. So what we're doing now, as these plants are growing, we're kind of bending them and kind of training them and encouraging them to grow in every one of these squares. So once we get plant matter in every one of these squares, we turn the plants onto their flowering cycle and we send them. There's about 10 days difference in this room and the room that we're just in. So you see the difference in the 10 days of growth. You can see it's just really started to send out its first little flower sets and kind of set up at the nodes. So these plants will push and stretch for another week or so. They'll be about, you know, maybe not double in size from this point, but a little bit taller. Now we're in the dark. So we can go next door as the lights kick on. And as that one turns off, this one will turn on momentarily. And there's only 10 days difference between this room and the room that you were just in. So you see they've really stretched. They started to put on all of their flower clusters pretty heavily, and they will just continue to go and go and go. So what we're after are the flowers. The leaves do produce, we do capture that and make extracts out of those.
Between the extraction, the grow side, packaging, transportation, security, I mean, we're probably looking at least 100 persons, at least at the grow side. We're already hiring, we're already bringing people on board, and what's awesome about that is they can come to Colorado and train. They can come here hands-on. I just can't imagine just going to Illinois and all of a sudden, just for the very first thing you ever do, you've never grown a marijuana plant, you open this giant, you know, 80,000 square foot grow, and then you don't have anybody that's ever worked in a grow. And we're doing the exact opposite. We're bringing everybody on board and training them up right so that when they get there, it's hit the ground running.
So these are about 20 days in. And they've really started to put on those first sets of flowers. But you see how many more flowers, how many more plants are in this room just by getting rid of the aisles. So these plants are a little further along. Yeah, the smell gets more intense as they produce more resin and get closer to harvest. There's a sweetness on the back end of all of it, but you know, it's just a real musky, chemically smell to me. It's like a diesel skunk and tire fire. Probably 12 or 13 different varieties in here, kind of intermingling and mixing all of their smells. And each one smells different. So this group of plants, this room, we've actually started to what we call flush, which is where at the very end of the cycle, we give the plants pure water and some nutrient sequestering agents to help rid them of any excess chlorophyll and nutrient that may be in them. So when the customer, patient gets the product, it's a much more pleasurable experience. It burns better. It's also a much healthier experience. So what we're trying to do with the flush is mimic those late fall rains that happen. By staying as close to nature as we can, we're able to produce as great a product as nature does. Maybe not as good, but we try. Yeah, now we can go next door too. So this is the infamous green crack, just because of the name. Some people just give names to plants. So this is the processing portion of it. We split the plant into a third. We'll take that top third and hand trim that. The middle third will go through a processing machine. The bottom third we just strip off and use that to make all of our ancillary products, whether that be a smoking quality oil or it goes into the edibles or whatever. The way the batching process works is you have your individual plant tags. At a certain point, instead of having to put each individual plant into its own container and keep that separate, we're allowed to batch like things that will test the same, that are basically the same variety, to where we have one number that gets scanned, which brings up all those original numbers, which traces all the way back to those original plants. So in case there was ever any type of a recall or whatever it may be, we can trace it back to when, how, who, everything. So as it's ready, they'll hang it if it's been hand trimmed. And then we'll go into the actual drying rooms. So this is the hand trim product. It's just a much higher end product. As it dries, they will actually start packaging it up and sends it out to the stores. That's a large container. So, but we have them all the way from small gram containers to quarter-ounce size containers.
So it's almost like medicine.
It's not almost like medicine. It is medicine. Right.
This is a new industry that definitely has a long history of stereotype, so it just takes some time. And I think the beautiful thing is we know that we can go in and do it right. So I think as long as we go in with an open mind, and also these fantastic partnerships, which I believe will exist in Illinois between the regulators and the producers and the dispensers, I think that's very helpful. I feel like we're going to be able to work together as partners figuring this out together. And that to me is a good thing.